Welcome to my cherry guide for UFO 50's Hyper Contender. The cherry requirement is to win a tournament as 4 different characters. You can see which characters you've won with by looking for the trophy icon when selecting a character. To complete a tournament you have to play 8 matches in succession against all 7 other characters before facing a mirror matchup against yourself. You can rematch each stage 1 time. If you lose twice to the same opponent you'll lose the tournament and have to restart with that character. It is possible to cheese this cherry a little bit. I'll quickly go over my easier way to beat this game before going over the game itself in more detail, going over the game's rules and every character. It's obviously up to you if you want to get the cherry the intended way, but I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to skip the frustration from this one. For the cherry and even the gold disc clear, it specifies that you have to win the tournaments without affecting the ring rules. I found this to only be the case for the final tournament you do though, meaning you can complete 3 tournaments with easier rules before beating the final tournament with default rules to get the cherry. My personal settings are as follows. The main thing I do is set the ring count to 1. This means that we have to get to the first ring as it spawns in order to win. It's still possible to lose playing with these rules, but it makes a successful run around 3 minutes, compared to the 8+ minutes of continued difficulty and frustration from a standard attempt. It's possible for the opponents to still stun you with their hits, but for the most part you can outmaneuver them and reach the ring first, since they tend not to focus on it until it spawns. You can still get unlucky with the ring spawning in disadvantageous positions or the opponent getting a critical hit in just as it spawns, but even if you lose twice in a row you'll only have to replay a couple minutes of gameplay. The rings aren't available to be collected immediately as they spawn, but you should be able to familiarise yourself with the timings to get them as they become available. I will choose the following characters to do this cheese with since they're very mobile and easy to control. Voltana with their jetpack, Brazz with their anti-grav and Elka with their double jump. If you've already won with some characters with default settings, you can complete however many tournaments you need to this way. Just remember the final tournament you do for the cherry must be with the default rules. While you still do have to complete a tournament normally, this method can save you a lot of time and frustration on the other tournaments. Now for those of you that want to beat the game the intended way, or just for those that want advice for the final tournament, let's go over the rules of the usual game and also the controls. For each match you'll have to collect rings. They spawn periodically. You can see a countdown to a ring spawning at the bottom of the screen. There's a small delay when they spawn where they can actually damage you, so be careful not to be on top of them as they spawn. You can time going into the rings as they become available. Hitting your opponent will cause them to drop a ring if they have one, and will also stop them in their tracks briefly. If they have no rings available, none will drop, but they'll still be stunned. This means that sometimes you'll be in situations where you have every ring and are trying to stall until the next ring spawns in. Whichever character reaches 5 rings first wins the match, and you can only lose to an opponent 1 time. A second loss to the same opponent will end your attempt. In terms of controls, we can use the arrow keys to move, Z to use that character's maneuvering ability, and X to use their weapon. By pressing up alongside X we can use an alternate weapon attack, and by pressing down on X we can perform a melee hit. Importantly, you can use your melee attack to dodge ranged attacks with correct timing. This also includes placed obstacles or attacks that explode. I'll go over each character and their unique movement, weapons and melee attacks shortly. Ranged attacks often can be blocked by other ranged attacks, although there are exceptions such as Brazz's missiles and Gilroy's bombs. By holding down you can block. This is only useful against melee hits, but on successfully blocking a hit your opponent becomes vulnerable. They cannot move for a short time, and if you follow up with a hit while they're in this state, they'll drop 2 rings instead of the usual 1. Just bear in mind everything you can do to your opponent they can also do to you. For this reason be cautious when going for a melee hit. Remember, it's block to counter melee hits and melee to avoid ranged attacks. I mentioned before that you'll face every other character before facing yourself in a mirror matchup, meaning you have to win 8 matches per tournament. Barring the final matchup, your opponents will be in a random order, and there are also a variety of arenas that are also random. Sometimes these arenas can be unfavourable for your character, but you really have no choice in the matter and must play with what you're given. Any platforms on these arenas can be passed through, and if you want to quickly travel down, simply press down and Z at the same time to go through the platform. I found this game to be one of the most frustrating for me personally. While the mechanics can be fun, the randomness that the rings come out from can be very frustrating. Also, the enemy AI being able to perform perfect dodges followed up with other commands quickly adds to the frustration. Now let's go over the characters themselves. Each character has their own unique way of moving, as well as a unique weapon and melee attack. For that reason, playing as different characters is quite a drastic change. It can be fun to learn the unique characters, but can also be time consuming and frustrating since they all play so differently. Thankfully, you can avoid some of the characters since you only have to win with 4 of them. Elka is your most standard character. For maneuvering, she has the ability to jump and can actually jump twice, making her movement one of the better ones in my opinion. She's also one of the simplest characters to control. Her weapons are daggers. These are projectiles that fire in a straight line and bounce off the first wall hit before coming straight back. For this reason, be careful not to get hit by your own returning dagger. Her alternate attack fires a dagger a much shorter distance before falling. I didn't find much use for this, but you won't have to worry about rebounding daggers if you use this attack. You can double jump into a dagger to send it fast at a diagonal. This is great to catch an enemy off guard. Her melee is a slide, which is great for dodging attacks since it has a large horizontal movement. This includes dodging your own reflected daggers. Elka's mobility is her main benefit, so make sure to abuse it, positioning yourself well where you can. As Elka, I usually sit at the bottom of the arena, jump and then fire on cooldown. There's a good chance the opponent will eventually run into one of your daggers. This also puts your daggers in a good position to double jump into in order to send them upwards. The next character, Yogo, is much harder to control and use. They use a grapple to maneuver, grabbing ledges and swinging across. This grapple can grab rings just by coming into contact with them, which is a great benefit of this ability. Yogo's attack is a boomerang, which will return slightly below where it is initially thrown. The boomerang's movement can be awkward to avoid, but I often found it lacking due to its low range. The alternate attack simply causes the boomerang to go upwards on the return instead of down. Yogo's melee is pretty good for dodging and also is useful for repositioning off of your grapple. While I found Yogo hard to use, I can see them being quite powerful if you're willing to put in the time to get good with them. Brazz maneuvers using anti-grav, meaning that they will switch gravity for themselves, travelling either directly down or up. You can still travel through platforms and can press down and Z to move under a platform, even if gravity is reversed. This can feel unintuitive, but it's important to remember. Brazz's weapons are rockets. They travel horizontally, slightly arcing downwards and exploding on contact. This weapon can be great for controlling space, but be cautious of using the rockets when next to an enemy, as the explosion can also hit yourself. Brazz's rockets are unlike most ranged attacks in that they will not get stopped by other attacks. They will deny the enemy attacks while still continuing on their path. Brazz's alternate attack removes the explosion, so consider using this version of the attack if you're next to your opponent. Alternatively, at this range, you can also go for a melee hit. Brazz's melee is a roll, pretty decent as it can hit enemies slightly above you. Reck is one of my favourite characters to play. She's definitely the character I won with the most. They manoeuvre using mines, which can be awkward due to the delay between placing them and then being active. You press Z to place a mine and then walk into it to shoot yourself upwards. Since there's a short activation time, it can be hard to use these reactively. These mines do also act as a threat to your opponent. If they run into them, they'll remove the mine and get hit, dropping a ring if they have one. Reck's weapons are nails. This attack is great since it attacks in such a wide cone. The range is short, but the nails are also great as a form of defense, since they can stop other ranged attacks. Reck's alternate attack is to fire the nails upwards, which is great since often as Reck you'll be playing the bottom of the arena. Interestingly, when mid-air you can also press down and attack to throw nails below you, which is worth a shot if you're ever landing directly onto your opponent. Reck's melee attack is also very respectable. You get decent distance and also can dodge attacks pretty easily. You can use your melee to dash through your mines if you don't want to use them or want to pass by. This will remove the mine though. Also bear in mind when playing against Reck you can melee through these mines as well to avoid their damage. Due to having awkward movement, I often found myself staying at the bottom of the arena, spamming my upwards attack. Since the nails hit in such a wide cone, often the enemies will get hit while trying to get close. The main negative to playing like this is that you're less likely to get rings as they spawn. Since rings can spawn anywhere in the arena, there's a high chance they'll spawn up high, where your opponent will be in a better position to reach them. Sephy is a character I personally found hard to use. They use wings to maneuver. This means that they can start hovering when mid-air by hitting Z. I found their initial jump height too short to get much use from this though. One major positive is you can still attack while hovering, including melee attacks. Sephy's weapons are hammers, which are mid-range attacks that move horizontally, arcing heavily. Her alternate attacks throws her hammers much higher, causing them to arc differently. The hammers are decent, but I found them tricky to use effectively. Sephy's melee is a horizontal hit, decent enough and useful since you can use it while flying, but not the best for dodging since it's such a quick attack, giving you less of a dodge window. Gilroy is another character with a unique movement. They can enter an elevator that can travel either directly up or down. Pretty awkward to use by itself since it's so different to the other characters, but in combination with other movement they can be a pretty mobile character. Their weapons are bombs, which are relatively short range but exploding in a large radius. They're also easy to throw from the elevators. Just bear in mind it can be easy to hit yourself with these explosions if you're not careful. These bombs can still be dodged with melee attacks, so bear that in mind when playing versus Gilroy. Gilroy's alternate attack throws the bomb more vertically, which can be great situationally for when you want to trade height for distance. Gilroy's melee is pretty powerful. It's one of the longer dodges so can very easily dodge most attacks, as well as being great for hitting your opponent. It also can be used to exit the elevator, and since it travels a fair distance, it's almost the ideal way to leave your elevator. Despite some positives, I personally found Gilroy too unique to use personally, although playing against him can be painful sometimes. Voltana is another interesting character since basically all their attacks work diagonally. They move using a jetpack, which gives them a lot of control, but it moves much slower than other characters. Since it's so slow, particularly when starting up, you can't really use it to avoid hits very easily. Their attack is a laser that fires down diagonally. It rebounds off the walls or floor once. Their alternate attack simply sends the laser at an upwards diagonal instead of down. Voltana's lasers are great for playing the other side of the map and playing with verticality. While above or below you can spam lasers and eventually they should tag your opponent. Voltana's melee also hits diagonally downwards, which you can use to hit your opponents if you fly towards them. When on the ground you can still use the melee hit to the side, but it will be very short range since you're only getting the sideways part of the movement. You can still use it to dodge with good timing though. When playing as Voltana you want to abuse the height advantage and rain fire down on your opponent. The space directly below Voltana is safe since all their attacks are diagonal, so when against them you can stay directly below them to be safe since they can't hit you from that position. Finally we have Donkus. They move using a launch which requires you to hold Z to charge your jump. This allows you to jump at varied heights depending on charge time. Since it requires a charge, you can't use it to reactively dodge anything for the most part. Donkus attacks using darts. These move in a straight line and by tapping it you can send a dart straight across. These darts will break on contact with a wall or floor. If you hold the attack button you'll see an indicator next to Donkus which will move in the direction of your opponent. This is the angle you'll throw the dart, so by holding it you can get a better angle to fire at your opponent. You can also use it while above your opponent, and in this case it will gradually aim down towards them. It will stop when it's moved 90 degrees and is either directly above or below you, and at that point you'll have to fire that dart in order to aim another one. Donkus' alternate attack is a much faster dart that you cannot re-angle. Be sure to use this if you want to hit horizontally. Finally, Donkus' melee is an upward strike at a slight diagonal. This is honestly great to use to jump short distances instead of launching since it's far quicker. Interestingly, you can't use this to trigger obstacles such as Reck's mines since it moves too vertically, making playing versus Reck a bit of a pain. And that's everything I want to go over for Hyper Contender. Hopefully you found this guide helpful. Hyper Contender is definitely one of the less time consuming cherries with a requirement that's fairly forgiving, but the game itself can be pretty frustrating. I definitely won't hold it against you if you choose to go the easier route on the first 3 tournaments. If you have any additional tips please leave a comment and thank you for watching.